Welcome to PHI's presentation on substation contractor safety. As a contractor working inside a PHI substation, you are required to understand and comply with applicable safety laws, OSHA regulations, and any job-specific requirements that were part of a pre-bid or pre-construction meeting. After you have reviewed this material, you will have an understanding of what equipment is in a substation, the hazards associated with being in a substation, and what is expected of you while in the substation. We will begin with basic safety procedures including proper PPE, substation entry, gate and vehicle security, general tailgate sessions including the tailgate process and forms, the control house, personal safety, chemical safety, and substation exit. In order to be qualified to enter a substation, you must be competent in the following: the skills and techniques necessary to distinguish exposed live parts from other parts of electric equipment, the skills and techniques used to determine the nominal voltage of exposed live parts, maintaining a minimum approach distance, and, for those entering a substation to perform electrical work, the proper use of special precautionary techniques, personal protective equipment, insulating and shielding materials, and insulated tools for working on or near exposed energized pieces of electrical equipment. A substation contains electrical equipment capable of interrupting or establishing electrical circuits. It is also capable of changing the voltage, frequency, or other characteristics of the electrical energy flowing through the circuits. Regardless of your role, you need to be aware of the potential electrical dangers associated with working around substation equipment. Conductors allow electric energy to flow in the electric system. Most conductors are made of aluminum or copper tubing, aluminum or copper wire, and rigid angle. Pay careful attention to rigid angle because it can have the appearance of structure supports. As mentioned, a qualified worker must be able to distinguish exposed live parts from other parts of electrical equipment. Conductors are these live parts of the system. Insulators prevent the flow of electric current and support the conductors. Insulators also help keep the conductors separated from structures, poles, and other equipment. Structures support the conductors and insulators. Structures also help keep most conductors elevated and out of reach of personnel on the ground. Be aware of substations with low conductors that could still be within reach. Substations have voltage changing equipment such as transformers. Transformers are usually the largest piece of equipment in the substation. Some transformers have tap changers that regulate voltage for changing system loads. Circuit breakers are used for switching electric circuits in and out of the system. Switches and disconnects are used to isolate equipment for maintenance and give personnel a visual open point when performing work on equipment. Voltage regulators are used to maintain voltage on distribution systems for changing system loads. Control houses are used to protect control equipment from the elements. Some substations have metal-clad switchgear which provide housing for circuit breakers, protective relays, and other control equipment. Current transformers and potential transformers monitor current and voltage for metering and relaying. Lightning arresters protect the substation equipment from lightning strikes and switching surges. Capacitor banks are used to eliminate the voltage drop in the system caused by inductive loads such as motors. As stated earlier, a qualified worker must be able to determine the nominal voltage of exposed live parts. This is accomplished on-site using the substation operating diagram provided by your liaison or information from a system operator to obtain the nominal voltage of equipment. One of the most obvious hazards in a substation is the danger associated with electricity. Electricity is not visible outside of an arc. Therefore, always treat conductors and associated equipment as energized until the conductors and equipment are de-energized, tested, and grounded. Finally, a qualified worker should maintain the minimum approach distances, or MAD, corresponding to the voltages for which they will be exposed. MAD is defined as the closest distance a worker is permitted to approach an energized object. There is a specific MAD depending on the voltage of the energized object as defined in the minimum approach distance chart. After determining the nominal voltage, the corresponding MAD must be maintained. For example, let's say you have a crew working in the vicinity of a 25 kilovolt circuit breaker. According to the chart, the minimum approach distance for a qualified individual is 2 feet 10 inches plus a standard reach of 31 inches. This MAD should be reviewed with your contractor liaison and be part of your tailgate session, particularly for those who will be performing electrical work. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, must be worn prior to entering a designated work area and shall not be removed until you have cleared the area. For face and eye protection, wear safety glasses that satisfy the ANSI Z87.1 standard, outfitted with permanently attached side shields. For head protection, ANSI-approved hard hats are required. Only attachments designed for use on hard hats shall be used. You must have your hard hat with you when you enter a substation. Footwear shall be capable of providing protection for the type of work being performed. For example, construction work requires a composite or steel toe. If you will be performing electrical work boots with an electrical hazard or EH rating or dielectric shoes must be worn. Appropriate work gloves shall be worn for operations where the hands are potentially exposed to thermal or chemical burns, cuts, abrasions, pinching, or other injury. If you will be working within 25 feet of exposed, energized equipment without an escort, you must wear flame-resistant clothing, or FRC. All FRC must have a minimum rating of 5 calories. Additional PPE may be required based on the type of work being performed, including hearing protection, respirators, and fall protection. Required PPE should be discussed and identified during the tailgate session. All PPE should be in good condition. When you arrive, check for the posted substation name and address to be used for any 911 calls. You may enter the substation once you have received clearance and authority from your PHI liaison or the system operator. The system operator must be notified of your name, purpose for your visit, and estimated duration of your stay. Follow any additional regional guidelines. When entering or exiting a substation, make sure the gate is opened completely and secured in order to pass without incident. As stated in the PHI Safety Manual, perimeter substation doors and gates shall be kept closed and locked when not under the observation or control of an attendant. All attendants must be within close proximity to open gates to maintain proper control of the gate. When it comes to parking your vehicle, you must pull through in all our parking spaces to avoid having to back out to leave. If you are unable to pull through, backing your vehicle into a parking space is preferred. If a second person is available, that person must act as a guide when backing the vehicle into or out of a space. Every effort should be made to park your vehicle as far away from exposed energized equipment as possible. Those entering a substation need to make their presence and intentions known to anyone else who may be in the yard. This needs to be as formal a discussion as necessary to ensure that each person knows what the other is doing and how the activities may affect one another. If additional crews arrive and new people enter, a tailgate session must occur to discuss what each crew will be doing. Whether the tailgate session is attended by just the crew leaders or the entire team, it is critical that each team is aware of what each group is doing. If work on the electrical system will be performed, a more formal tailgate session will be required. Do not enter the control house unless you have been authorized to enter for specific work activities. If you are authorized to work in the control house, use extreme caution to make sure you do not touch or bump any of the relay panels, as this could cause unintentional operation interruption. Other hazards include exposed terminal strips and the back of relay panels. Substation batteries are used as a control source, supplying energy to operate substation circuit breakers, relays, and emergency lighting. These batteries store a charge, and you can be shocked even if they are disconnected. In addition, the chemicals that make up the battery's electrolyte are extremely corrosive and can cause serious damage to your clothing and skin. When batteries are charging, they produce a highly explosive hydrogen gas. As a result, smoking is not allowed inside the control house. Avoid contact with batteries unless you are authorized to work on them. If your work requires you to be in close proximity to batteries, make sure to note the location of the eye wash station in the event of contact with battery chemicals. As a general rule, only work in the areas that you are assigned. Do not wander around the substation and into areas where you are not authorized to work. Never touch or handle equipment that you're not authorized to work on. Under abnormal conditions or improper grounding of equipment, you could become the path for electricity to flow to the ground. As you are moving throughout the substation, keep an eye out for cable trough covers. They are not designed for human weight. Do not use them as walkways. Danger or caution barricades should never be crossed or entered. Substation equipment can be operated remotely. System operations will make a courtesy call to substations if they plan to operate this equipment. However, this is not always possible, and equipment can operate without warning, such as a circuit breaker opening a circuit under fault conditions. Be prepared for equipment operations so you will not get startled. Do not climb on any equipment. As mentioned earlier, most but not all uninsulated conductors are elevated. Be aware of the low conductors and station service transformers. Low conductors also pose clearance issues to larger vehicles like mobile cranes, dump trucks, and concrete trucks. No material or tools of any description shall be carried on the shoulder. All long materials such as lumber shall be carried in a horizontal position either at or below waist level. Ladders with fiberglass slide rails are acceptable as long as the equipment has been de-energized, tested, and grounded. Ladders shall be securely tied off when possible. The use of all metal ladders is prohibited. As required by OSHA, appropriate fall protection shall be worn at any height that necessitates the use of fall protection. All scaffolds must conform to OSHA guidelines. Scaffolds should be set up with a solid base, guide rails, or fall protection at the appropriate height, and toe boards. The platform should also be easily accessible. When performing confined space entry, you must be qualified and follow all OSHA safety rules. You may also come in contact with different chemicals or chemical containers within a PHI substation. SF6 gas insulated circuit breakers could have a problem if arc extinguishing SF6 gas leaves the circuit breaker. The byproduct of this decomposition would show up as a light-colored powder around the circuit breaker. A strong rotten egg smell could also be present. The powder can be irritating to the eyes and skin. Avoidance is the best practice. Nitrogen gas protects the transformer oil from deterioration caused by exposure to moisture or oxygen. Nitrogen cylinder pressure can exceed 2,000 psi. Do not handle these cylinders unless you are authorized to do so. New transformers, regulators, and PTs are insulated by a relatively harmless mineral oil. All oil spills should be avoided because some older equipment was filled with oil that could contain polychlorinated biphenyls, better known as PCBs. PCBs have been linked to cancer and other health problems. Report any unexpected exposure or contact to your PHI liaison. No chemicals may be brought to a PHI substation without prior approval. You must provide the SDS sheets and remove any residual material from the site when you exit. When you have completed your task, make sure to clean up any debris and return everything to its original location. Notify your liaison when you are leaving the substation. They will notify the regional system operator or security. Report any problems, safety issues, or questionable events that may have occurred during your stay to your liaison. If you will be involved with electrical work, please continue watching this video. If not, your liaison will have you sign the safety acknowledgement form at this time. Your PHI liaison can provide you with the PHI safety manual and can answer any questions you may have. If you are working on or near PHI high voltage equipment, or in or around control equipment, there are additional safety guidelines that apply to your role in addition to all applicable OSHA rules. These additional safety procedures address crew tailgate sessions, equipment grounding techniques for cranes, uninsulated aerial lifts, bucket trucks, all-terrain forklifts, tankers, and PPE for switching, tagging, testing for de-energized, and grounding of lines and equipment for the purpose of protecting personnel, and the PHI electric system permit and tagging procedure. Documented tailgate meetings are required by you or your team before the start of any job or at the beginning of each shift on site each day. A tailgate meeting is also required if conditions change or new personnel enter the site. Tailgate discussion should include nominal voltage within the yard, specifics on energized equipment, isolation points, specific work procedures, and precautions to ensure that you do the job safely, and required PPE for work. The contractor in charge of the project is responsible for documenting the tailgate meeting. If your company does not have a form, you may reference the PHI Tailgate Meeting Checklist form. All members of the contract team must participate in the tailgate. All electrical circuits are considered energized unless they are disconnected, blocked, tagged, tested for de-energized, and grounded. Vehicles and equipment used to conduct work in an energized zone of the substation yard, e.g. bucket trucks, digger derricks, cranes, etc., shall be grounded when working in substations and substation yards. Proper grounding is required for all vehicles and equipment operating in energized zones and meeting the minimum grounding requirements. Verify any substation equipment you must perform work on or near is properly grounded. Missing groundings can result in failure of equipment as well as injury. Always remember, if it is not grounded, consider it energized. Wear the applicable PPE prior to operating any switches, pulling fuses, testing for de-energized, and grounding of lines and equipment on the PHI high voltage electric system. This includes electrical hazard rated or dielectric footwear, high voltage rubber gloves for operating switches, cutting or disconnecting ground wires, and flame resistant clothing. Additional equipment consists of approved switch stick for opening single pull disconnect switches, fuses, and applying tags using an approved tagging device, approved voltage detector, used for testing for de-energized lines, and approved insulated hotline stick, also known as a shotgun, for applying protective grounds. Wear all PPE properly while performing switching, tagging, testing for de-energized, and grounding. When switching circuits or equipment rated 250 volts and above, if a 6-foot minimum distance cannot be maintained from the face or head, arc flash goggles or face shield and the appropriate flame-resistant hood shall be worn. The PHI Electric System Permit and Tagging Procedure specifies how personnel can obtain permits, apply tags, and what tags must be used. Additional specifications include the communication which must take place between field personnel and the control center personnel, how tags must be applied, and how and when they can be removed. No person shall remove a danger or caution tag from any circuit control point, blocking point, switch, or other piece of electrical equipment except when directed by the appropriate system operator. And they must be an authorized individual according to the PHI permit and tagging procedure. No person shall operate a switch, disconnecting device, or other piece of electrical equipment which is blocked unless directed by the appropriate system operator, and they must be an authorized individual according to the PHI permit and tagging procedure, and only after all danger tags have been removed. Congratulations! You have now completed the entire safety awareness video. Your liaison will have you sign the safety acknowledgement form. As stated before, you should also be familiar with the PHI Safety Manual. PHI is committed to excellence in workplace safety. We believe that there is no job or activity so important that it cannot be accomplished in a safe manner. Safety is our #1 value. It is our goal that everyone works accident and injury-free every day because safety is not a job, it's a way of life. We want to make sure that you arrive home safely every day. If you have any questions, feel free to discuss with your PHI or company liaison. Welcome to PHI.